you probably weren't able to hear when I read his bio. Sorry about all the technical difficulties, and we apologize to you, Elliot, as well, because your time is very precious and valuable.
So
Um,
sorry.
so let's I want to read your bio again because I feel like it's important that people know who you are. I know that it's embarrassing for you to hear people talk about you, but I feel like it's important for people to hear it. So let me start over. So, and hopefully I won't be tongue tied this time around. Elliot Carlyle is a New York City based branding and creative consultant, empowerment speaker, executive and life coach, author, marketplace ministry leader, and philanthropist. Widely known as the brand The Voice. His work spans the fashion, creative, business, and lifestyle sector, serving as an industry expert to A-list brands and multimillionaire personalities, as well as a voice of empowerment, motivation, and inspiration. He is also recognized for his extensive knowledge and insight in the areas of entrepreneurship, leadership, personal growth and development, and influence. Elliot has seamlessly navigated multiple facets and roles throughout his professional career, including working in event production, public relations, creative direction, and media services. He has earned his BFA in fashion and retail management, along with working in an executive capacity with award winning creator of New York Fashion Week and international consultant Fern Mallis. He is currently the director of cultural diversity and inclusion for New York City Jewelry Week. Fueled by his personal mission and brand statement, empowering people to turn up the volume in life and business, Elliot has created platforms to build and equip 21st century visionaries, dubbing his audience of creatives, entrepreneurs, ministry leaders, artists, philanthropists, and the like as fellow architects, people who are actively building dreams, visions, goals, purpose, and destiny. He is the Influence Workbook, written to equip personal and corporate audiences with clarifying keys, liberating exercises, and empowering takeaways that will position you on a trajectory to get to your next by moving you beyond the questions and unblocking your personal power. As he continues to evolve, Elliot is committed to being a voice, coaching people to discover their voice, increase their success frequency, and amplify their influence. So once again, we started over.
Yay,
Thank you, Elliot,
Elliot.
for being here. Thank you so much. And that's I feel like that's just the tip of the iceberg of who you are. Just in the short time that I've gotten to know you personally. So we're really thankful to have you here with us today. And so we're going to get started because we don't want to keep people waiting too much longer. So now you want to take the first question again?
Yes. So the question that I was asking before the sound snafu was about Elliot's role as the Director of Cultural Diversity and Inclusion for New York City Jewelry Week. Since that's such a, monumental position, we just wanted to get some insight on what ways do you think that your role is impacting the jewelry industry, of course, but the fashion industry at large?
Thank you. So I will say it's interesting you use the word impact because that I have described this position as from the beginning, and it's something that is new. And I really pride the jewelry founders, J.B. Jones and Bella Naiman, on even coming to me and asking me to do it because they saw a need within the jewelry industry. Prior to them asking me, I had no knowledge of the jewelry industry really. I mean, of course I knew brands because I am a consumer, but I have not worked in the jewelry industry. My career expertise and my background is in fashion, and so that is where that is pretty much where I've been engaged for the last over a decade now. And interestingly, when they came to me, and I met them through fashion actually, but when they came to me to ask me, my immediate response was, well, why do you want me to do this? And they said, I said, because I don't have experience in the jewelry industry, so what makes you think that I would be qualified to do this? And they said, well, because of our experience with you, and we just know that you're good with people. And I thought that was really powerful because, they shared with me that one of the reasons why we asked you is because we saw something that you posted on Instagram and you talked about diversity. And I've always looked at diversity and inclusion as just a way of life. It's a part of the world that we live in. It's the way that we have to engage in the world because we live in a diverse and inclusive world and society. There's no way for you to engage with the real world and you not be a person who engages diversity and inclusion. So for me, people who are systems that are intentionally set up where this is a problem and an issue is because that has been institutionalized and it's really against the operation of society. And so that is something that I've always looked at from the very beginning. And when we had the conversation, I knew immediately this is something that I should do and could do. And it is also interesting because of the fact that this initiative or this position really came about because of what the jewelry industry is going on in the fashion industry with fashion being called to the carpet, with all of its missteps and its issues with diversity and inclusion. And they said, we don't want this to happen to us. And I said to them, I congratulate you for seeing the need before there was a crisis that came. And yes, there are issues that have gone on, and there are things, we can sit here and make a list on both sides of the spectrum for all the things that need to be addressed within both industries. But at least they came forward and said, we acknowledge that this is an issue. We acknowledge that this is not okay. And we do want to put something in place so that this does not happen here. We want people to know that as far as the organization of New York City Jewelry Week, we are a diverse and inclusive organization. And so I really applaud them for that. And hopefully, even with what we're seeing now with the pandemic, which has revealed diversity and inclusion issues even within the healthcare system. And of course, it's nothing new. I don't believe that, this pandemic, as they're calling it, has caused the crisis. I stand by the truth that we were in crisis before this pandemic ever hit. It's just revealed and put us in a place where we've had to slow down and face what we need to face that we've been able to avoid with the pace of life for so long. And so, although we are grieving and our hearts go out to those who have lost loved ones and who have been, diagnosed with the sickness and who have had to fight for their lives, and people who have lost jobs. And, there certainly is a lot of concern that is on the table. But at the same time, there are some shakeups that were necessary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very well said. I was just wondering if you could give us a little more insight as to what your role actually entails.
Okay. Well, interesting. That's funny that you asked, because I was actually able to create that. And so, our tiers with Jewelry Week is about education, awareness, and empowerment. And how did I come about that? The first thing that I did, because I did not know what I was getting into or what the issues were. I mean, it was a conversation I wasn't involved in as it pertained to jewelry as a customer. So I called together a group of, designers and professionals in the industry, and we met for months, and we had, open dialogue. We were just open for a conversation. What is working for you? What isn't working for you? What problems have you faced? What are some changes that you see that need to be made within jewelry? What are some obstacles that you've had to fight that you think are unfair? And through that conversation, we really were able to build a community. And so that started in about May of 2019. And by August of 2019, I then developed what is now known as the Here We Are program. And it's interesting because Here We Are really was derived from several panel discussions that I had set in within the fashion industry as this diversity and inclusion conversation became so popular, and for me it became trendy. And as people were engaging in these panels, and everybody would share their pieces, and whether it was the floor or people that were on the panel, and one question came up in almost every panel that I went to, or one perspective came up in almost every panel discussion I sat in, and that was that some people would say, and it really made me giggle every time, but people would talk about, oh, well, we don't know where they are. Where are the people of color? Where are the Black designers of this? And where are the Black designers of that?
They're out there.
Where are the Hispanic designers of that? And it's interesting because there was a level of truth to that question, although, I was with you at the time and would say, but they're there. But in terms of their arena of access, they weren't there.
Yeah.
And so what I said was, wow, because most people only deal with people that look like them. So that caused me personally to look a little deeper into this. And so most people, if you look at a lot of these, and I'm not going to call anybody by name because just think of one. But if you look at a lot of these gatekeepers and the powers that be, so to speak, and you look at something as personal as their Instagram, because people's Instagrams are pretty personal, and you look at them, it's amazing to me that some of them you have to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll if you ever see them in a picture with somebody who does not look like them.
That's true. Some of these people look like they've never met a person who wasn't their color. Yeah, it's astounding.
Yeah, so in their personal lives, so this is why this is a problem, because in your personal life, you don't even know how to engage with people who are different from you. So when it comes to you celebrating and embracing difference, how do you practice that? The only place that you have to really do that is at work. And so then, now you're engaging it from a place of force and not a place of power or freedom, because now you're being forced to do it, but it really is not your norm. And that's a problem because, again, I'll go back to my first statement, how are you engaging in the real world? Because that's the way the real world works. And I understand that most people, you deal with people who look like you because it's what is comfortable. But we have to always be in a position to be the student or the teacher at any given time, and we have to avail ourselves to hear different stories and to hear each other's stories. So I was really blessed to come together with these jewelry designers and all of us to sit down. And I wanted to know, where did you come from? How did you get into jewelry? Did you come, was this a business that you inherited, or a trade that you inherited? Was this something that was generational in your family, or is it something that you came up with out of the blue and realized that this is a talent and a gift and ability that you had and wanted to engage this as a business? And so just hearing all the different stories, I came up with the answer. You know what? Everybody keeps asking, where are they? They're right here. Here we are. And so that's what we developed as a campaign. And it was really beautiful to see everyone come together and collaborate. And we had a really emotional moment. We released a campaign that was launched in November. We had a billboard in Times Square that ran at 42nd and 7th. It was incredible. Someone
that's huge.
Because they wanted to support what we were doing. And then we had a full weekend of a 3-day weekend of events just dedicated to the Here We Are program, with about 26 to 30 designers who made up the diversity and inclusion mix. And it was a dedicated day where they could showcase, and it was trade, and they sold, and we had panel discussions and photo shoots. And I mean, it was really, really amazing for them to have that experience. And I'm looking forward to engaging that again this year. We want to definitely continue the Here We Are program with more initiatives. And, it really is about giving these designers a voice, giving them a way to tell their story, giving them a platform to tell their story. Because the sad part is, for many people of color, the truth is we don't often get access to these platforms to tell our story. And so then when we do find and create our own avenues to tell it the way that we tell it, then we're called disruptors. Or then, the testimony is that, we had to, break the mold, or we had to break the system. And I always say, that's okay, and I guess that's wonderful. But I personally, as a Black man, am tired of that being said as it pertains to our stories. I'm tired of that being the same testimony, and that being the way that writers and editors write about us when it comes to our success and us finding success, that we had to go through the back door, we had to turn the table over, we had to disrupt this. We wouldn't have to do that if the system was welcoming to us. We wouldn't have to do that if we had the same opportunity that our counterparts have. So at what point do we examine that and say, you know what, we need to rewrite this narrative?
Yeah. So based on what you just said, what do you, I mean, of course, we have had the pandemic hit and everything, so that's just shook up the whole world as we know it. So the things that you said to get everything going with your program and everything, what do you plan on doing to keep that momentum going? And what do you feel like diversity and inclusion, basically, what do you think is going to look like post COVID-19 in fashion?
I wish I had the answer. I really don't know. I mean, I think that fashion itself, and when I speak of fashion, I'm speaking of the business of fashion, the system of business that fashion runs on. I believe that they've made a lot of improvements, but it's really an individual thing. Honestly, this is something that, when it comes to when it comes to the attitude around diversity, inclusion, and racial inclusion, and just engaging people who are different, I believe that this is so personal. For me, I don't deal with it from an institutionalized place. I've been, some would say I've been fortunate, or I've been favored, or I've been blessed that I haven't had to come up, through the ranks of the corporate system. The way that I've worked for the past decade of my life has been that of a entrepreneur, a freelancer, or independent contractor. So I really haven't had to engage with a corporate governance over my voice. And I do know that when it comes to a lot of this, there's two sides of the table, right? There's two sides to the conversation for those who are in these positions, or those who are in these corporate structures who make up the diversity inclusion mix, who have to operate and they have to function and do their job. The outside, people on the outside looking in would say, oh, well, you should be doing this, and you should be saying this, and you should stand up for this, and you shouldn't tolerate that. But at the same time, it's not always just that easy, because again, there is a system to how this works. And so I think that the focus has to be looking at the system and really identifying what does not work and what is not fair in the system, versus telling a particular person, well, because you have this position, you need to be doing this, or you need to be doing that. Let's look at the system as a whole, because all the parts that make up the system have to be realigned. And I think that starts from the top down. That really does. And the disturbance often may come from the bottom up, but the action has to come from the top down, because it's who's in these boardrooms and who's at the top that's making these decisions. I was able to do, at free will, what I was able to do with New York City Jewelry Week, because the founders of Jewelry Week are the people that made this decision to say, we want this, and we know you can do this. We trust you to do it, and they gave me liberty to do it. And it wasn't about, me on some power trip. Oh, I'm the director of diversity and inclusion. I went into it with great humility, because I did not know exactly what was needed. So I had to position myself as a student. And for months, from May to August, I met with these people every month, sometimes twice a month, just to listen to them and learn from them. And then I was able to take, after sitting in school, I took what I learned, and then I put things in place. And so again, we're focusing on education, awareness, and empowerment. And that is, those are our 3 tiers. And so we have some empowerment initiatives where we're building out definitely some educational programming that I'm not at liberty to announce just yet, because it will be private too. But we have some major companies who have come on board, and organizations who have come on board to say, hey, we want to develop some educational initiatives within Jewelry Week. And one of the reasons why I'm excited about that, because again, even during Jewelry Week, I went around and asked all of the designers, well, what is working for you personally in your business? What are things that you need help with? What is not working for you? What are some successes that you've had that you think you may be able to help other people with? Because within the community, we can teach and help one another. But things such as how to sell in the digital space, and right now everybody's having to really look at that, with us having brick and mortar stores are closed. That was one thing. How do I put my jewelry online and sell on Instagram and all of these other platforms that you can now have a retail presence on? How do I do that? So that was one of the things. That
Can't sell it at Neiman Marcus.
Yeah, equipping people, with that, and also how to reach out to press. A lot of people are saying, I do well with my sales, but press doesn't write about me. Press doesn't, acknowledge me. Well, maybe it's the way that you're reaching out. Do you have a valid press kit? Do you have a sustainable website? Do you have, is your story even clear with your brand? Because a lot of people think once I get a website, once I have an Instagram, once I have a logo, title on my product, and there's my brand. But branding goes further than just that. And so, looking at all the aspects of branding, because we want these people not to just have, a craft and not just have a hobby. We want them to have a sustainable business,
Yeah.
Not just get a few sales on Instagram here, but really to establish them as power players within the market, and not to feel like they have to, do it, on the fly or on the fringe, as we called it, just because they are in the diverse and inclusive mix, and they don't really have access or the information that some of their people, some of our counterparts have, as they say.
Okay. Yeah, and forgive me if you already answered this, if you already said it, but when will this actually be launching?
We started last year. So with the Here We Are program that launched, we're going to continue that. Jewelry Week is coming up in November. So
I meant the educational component.
That we're still waiting on the partners.
You can't say.
You're still
Okay.
just to give us a go ahead.
Okay, yeah, because it is definitely necessary. I just think that so many times people don't even know where to start. So
Mm-hmm.
if they had the programming that you're talking about or the educational component, that would be a major help, even for someone like myself. Like um I have a business and I've started a business before, and a lot of it was just me feeling my own way through. And if you have someone that can tell you and guide you step one, step two, step three, or just give you access to more resources, or even just to be able to tell you, like how you just said, how to reach out to get the brand yourself properly and things that saves so much effort and
Yeah.
and time and mistakes being made, you know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Definitely. I know I will be participating.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. So one of the other things we have to ask you about is that you've identified a major part of your purpose in life is building people for global influence. What words of encouragement can you offer to our listeners that will inspire them to not give up basically during this time? Because some people, say for example, somebody started a business or they had their jewelry line up and going, they had their boutique, their brick and mortar space that they were selling it in or wholesaling to retailers, and then boom, COVID 19
Yeah.
happened. So you feel like you're completely set back. So how can you encourage those people and just people in general in life? Because I know my first telephone conversation with you, I was ready. I felt like I was ready to go out and conquer the world. So do that for the people, what you did for me.
It's interesting, and I think I have a few different words, but I will start, and I believe that this is so present now in my spirit because of watching Michelle Obama's Becoming. But she said something on there that was so powerful, and it's really simple. We hear it all the time, and I love the way that it's illustrated and it's rehearsed throughout the documentary. For those who haven't seen it, I really, 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 really admonish all of you to please go and watch that as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
it was good. I saw, definitely thought it was emotional for me.
Very, very amazing. But what is that all about? It's about owning your story. And I do believe what I would say to people is you have to remember why you started. And this is giving me another side to that. But it's easy to own why you. Well, it's easy to remind yourself of why you started when you own your story. And so I do believe that. For people who are doing whatever you're doing, whatever you're building. I call my audience architects, people who are actively building dreams, vision, goals, purpose, and destiny. And I always say that, when you get to a point where you're stuck, you have to go back and chart your course. And you have to borrow, don't go live in, but you have to sometimes borrow from the past in order to give you strength in your present. Meaning that no matter what you've been through in life, if you're here and you're under the sound of my voice and you're able to watch this Zoom and engage with this conference, that is because you have survived some things. So clearly, you already have a testimony that you made it here. You've been through this and you've been through that and you got here. So you do have what it takes to survive this. And so when you go through it with a mindset and an understanding that I'm already a winner, I'm already a survivor, it gives you the strength that you need to go forward. Now, in that, what I said to you was that we have to be careful in this time because whatever you label the thing is what it will become to you. And so what I was saying is, they released across the news that this is a pandemic, and people are saying, well, we're in crisis and all that kind of stuff. I didn't say that, and I'm not acknowledging that. Again, like I said at the beginning, there are people who have lost their lives, there are people who have lost jobs, there are people who are really, really who have experienced some stressful situations. I mean, I have friends who have lost loved ones. A very close friend of mine who I grew up with that passed away suddenly on Sunday. So it's been
I'm so sorry.
times to grieve. It is, it's a serious time, but at the end of the day, like we can't die out. Like we can't die out. You have to keep going, especially those who are on this call and on this conference who are creative people. Where do we create from? We create from the inside out. Everything that you've ever built, everything that you've ever designed, everything that you've ever imagined or envisioned that is now a reality, it started in your mind first. It existed in your mind, in your spirit first, and then you were able to, through the use of whatever your technology or tool is or your gifting, you were able to use that to get what was inside of you, outside of you, and cause it to to be real and tangible and a real experience that people can engage with, and hopefully that was monetized and people could buy or purchase. So because of that, we do have the creative ability to shape and mold and create in this time. And I think that is one of the blessings of this lockdown and this quarantine that has come to slow us down. While everything is slowed down, while we get time to think and reflect, and for some people just rest, but also in that resting to go back and revisit, your own dreams, your own, your vision journals, the things that you said you were going to do, the things that you said, oh, if I had more time, I would do this, or if I had the time, I would do that, or oh, man, if I could just get a break, I really would like to do this or try this. And I think that now this has that time has come, and so those who I've been talking to in my circle have been creating out of the front and the back. And I'm just like, really, you're working on that, you're doing this. And it's because, it's amazing that when things slow down, we can even realign with our purpose, and we can realign with our values and what matters to us. Life, especially those of us who are in the fashion industry, it's go, 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 go. It's always something. You never really get a chance to slow down and rest. But when you do, it's amazing how you start to reconnect with things, with parts of yourself that I don't care how connected you've been. When you get to slow down, you get to reconnect with parts of yourself that you have disconnected from, and you gain strength that has fell off as you've been moving. It's inevitable. And that is one thing that I want to encourage people, while you are while you are in quarantine and you have this time to really, use it wisely. And even if that just means you need to rest, make sure you rest. Don't be so caught up in getting on every Zoom and every Instagram live and every webinar and every tutorial and how. My goodness, it's so interesting because I was saying before this, there was such a big conversation about, not using our devices so much and spending, keeping our screen time down and, not being on Instagram and social media and all of this so much. And it's like now that we're in this pandemic and digital is all we have, we're glued all the time,
Mm-hmm.
Even me, I've had to make sure that I take time and unplug and, and detach so that I can, stay in a safe zone in a clear space, because I am always giving out and, I all my damn phone, coaching people, just talking to people or praying for people. And so, I have to be in charge too, and I can't take time I need to recharge and get back on the Instagram or the Zoom and all of these conversations, some of which are unnecessary, but that's another
It's all right.
Yeah,
we had
I
a
wanted
couple
to.
comments.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Sheila Hamilton said, "Are you reading it now?"
Yeah, I was gonna read it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, as Sheila said, Elliot's voice alone is encouraging. He makes you want to know what he's saying and what he's about. And then Kenyatta Davis said, I needed that, Elliot. So you might have some new clients on your hands.
Well, that is what we're here for. I just believe, as a voice, one of the things that I always say, as a voice, I listen twice as much as I speak. And so, I've really spent a lot of time, just in prayer and meditation, even for myself, and just to hear. And a lot of people have called and they're like, oh, you need to go on live. You need to be talking. You need to do this. I have a friend who's trying to get me to do this virtual conference. And, you need to be teaching and doing this with your book and all of this. And I'm like, no, I think people are inundated with messages right now. People are overrun. Everybody has, if they're not on talking, they're creating memes with instructions. You need to be doing this and doing that. And if it's not a Bible scripture, then it's a quote. If it's not a quote, then it's an instruction. If it's not an instruction, it's a tutorial. I'm like, my goodness, like everybody does not have the answer. And so
no, they don't. And it gets so stressful and overwhelming. That's how I am too. I'm like, I have to put this phone down because and I have the timer on my Instagram where it tells me if I've been on for 5 minutes or more. So that's how I have mine set for 5 minutes. So that's about all I can take. It's like you get so bombarded, and it's just the people that created Instagram are geniuses because it's just natural for you to just keep scrolling. It's so easy for you to, and the next thing you know, you got 5,000 things going on in your mind. One person say go left, the other say go right, and you're confused. So I'm like, I will not be confused. Thank you very much.
That is really interesting that you said that, because I did a talk about that. When you get on Instagram, that home screen that you get on is called a feed. You know, the same thing when you get on Facebook. That first page you get on when you log into Facebook, that is your news feed, right? When you get on Twitter, that is scrolling is your feed, and so that is what feeds you literally. And the things that are on your feed are things that you subscribe to based on your appetite. So if you learn to pay attention to what is feeding you and learn to assess whether you need it or not, you might be able to even adjust how things affect you when you're engaging in the digital space too, because that's feeding you as well.
Yes, that's great advice, and it makes perfectly good sense. Um,
Absolutely.
so one of the unless you want to take the next question now, but I can take it. It's up to you.
Yeah, I'll take the next one. So we're gonna talk about your. Oh yes.
Are you drinking your wine? Oh, is that water?
Oh,
Oh yeah.
this not.
You gotta stay
But
hydrated.
So you're the office. You're the office officer. You're the author of the Influence Workbook, Trajectify Your Life. The blueprint. Hold on. Let me get the title right. Your Influence Workbook is called Trajectify Your Life. Your blueprint for engagement. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, can you give? I have this. I hate when the window is all stretched out, and it's like you have to read all the way to the right to the left. Let me just read on my phone. Can you give us a brief summary of your workbook and how one can apply these principles to their life today with everything going on, of course?
Everything. So going back to what I said, so the Influence Workbook is actually, it was derived from my Influence Architect boot camps. And so I had been teaching, I did 2 boot camps in 2017, which came from a Facebook live show that I had on Destiny Conversations. And there were 3 intense days on finding your purpose. I mean, they were really an actual 3-day treasure hunt for you to dig on the inside of you, find out what your treasures are, what your purpose is, what your gifts and abilities are, untapped or tapped, and also discover what were barriers to your success with them, what were hindering interferences that weren't allowing you to maximize in your success with engaging these or using these, or if you hadn't engaged them at all, how you can engage them and actually make them into a business with residuals. And so, we attracted people from all different tiers of the architect mix, which I told you are people who are actively building dreams, vision, goals, purpose, and destiny. And so I would teach this stuff for 3 days. Starting on Friday night, we would gather together about 6 o'clock for the opening session, and we would end about 2 a.m. and then they would come back at 9 a.m. and we'd have breakfast and continue the sessions all day long, lunch, dinner, there again till about midnight, and then come back on Sunday for presentations and wrap ups. And they were very intense. But one of the things that came to me as a challenge was, you're doing all this teaching, but people need to be able to go and get this. Like, this is valuable information, and people need to be able to sit with this because it's a lot. It's a lot. And my sessions are very, very intense. But I hadn't really written anything, and I the second time I did a worksheet, and it started out as 7 questions, and then I was like, well, I need to simplify it, and it became, I think, 21 questions. But it was a 21-day worksheet that took people all 3 days to finish, and some people still couldn't finish. And there were no right or wrong answers. It was all about you as a person. And what I realized was, wow, there are so many people who have never done the work on themselves. Mm-hmm. We will spend hours and hours and hours working on a brand, or working on a business plan, or working on a concept or idea, or, if you're a designer, for instance, you can spend hours and hours sewing a dress. And we applied all of this work externally, but we never position ourselves to do that kind of work internally. And that is important, because it is you that is creating and manifesting all that you are, that will exist outside of you. And so, and I always tell people that until you do the inner work, you don't really create lasting sustainability systems for the outer work. But the blessing is, even if all outside of you fails or crumbles, you'll always be able to go back inside and do the work. So what I created with the Influence Workbook was a guide, a personal guide, and it's a personal accountability system for you to be able to do the inner work. And it deals with, obstacles to destiny. It deals with the hindrances and frustrations. It deals with, finding your purpose. My favorite chapter in the book is chapter 2, and that's the one that everybody gives me so much feedback on. I mean, I get a lot of different feedback from different parts of the book, but chapter 2 is one that people are like, man, when I got there, I was ready. And it's called I No Longer. And it's really a chapter where you get to define what is no longer working in your life and what will no longer engage that is not serving you.
That's excellent. I need to read.
And I
Yeah, I'll definitely be supporting your book.
And I tell my story of how that came to me, and I even share my I No Longer from 2016 in there. But that is what the book is. It works as a dream journal. It works as a goal guide. I mean, it's not a coffee table book by far. It is not one. It's not a book that you just gonna sit down and leave it somewhere. I mean, most people when they start it, they can't put it down. They carry it with them everywhere. I love the fact that there's no right or wrong way to approach the book because it is so personal. It's all about you. Some people start in chapter 1. Some people start in chapter 4. Some people go from chapter 1 to chapter 3 and then be like, oh, this one isn't for me. I'm going to go to chapter 6. I mean, so there's really, it's so personal to you. While you're doing the work, your inner self is guiding you on where you need to go with the book. And I love that, that it's timeless in that way and it's personal to reach you in whatever situation you're in. It's one of my most prized works. And interestingly, I wrote the book in 7 days.
Okay. Really? Wow. That's amazing.
That's incredible. And again, it's called The Influence Workbook, Trajectify Your Life, Your Blueprint for Engagement.
Yes.
Okay, and tell us where people can pick up your book.
It is on Amazon. You can go right to Amazon. If you type in Elliot Carlyle, it'll come up. If you type in The Influence Workbook, it will come up. And also the book has its own website if you want to read a little bit more about the book and some testimonials. It is at trajectifyyourlife.com. Trajectifyyourlife.com. There's a website dedicated to the book.
Okay, perfect. And we'll make sure we put the Amazon link in our description box for this video, and we'll link your website too. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you for speaking engagements and all of that, because that would definitely be a treat for anybody that books you. And speaking of books, Fine Trenches. So I definitely have to get your commentary. I don't know if you read the whole book. I read some of the quotes from it, but Mr. Andre Leon Talley in the Fine Trenches.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a press galley of that, and I really wish that I was in a position to get one. These are times when I wish I was a fashion editor. You know, there are certain times in my life when I'm like, man, I should have became an editor instead. But I like to talk more than I like to write, so I guess that wouldn't have worked for me. But I'm telling you, that book has caused such an uproar in the industry on one end, and then on the other side, there's a whole lot of people that are not even really paying attention to it. So it's funny to hear the different sides, and I really have watched the conversation from the day that the first press came out about the book, and his comments about Anna Wintour. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the conversation, I know what we're talking about. I do encourage you to go and Google Andre Leon Talley, the Chiffon Trenches, so that you can see, and read the press about the book. But I will say this to the time, because I haven't read it, I can't really say. Make a definitive statement in terms of where I am with Andre's story, but I will say having had experience with him and conversation with him on numerous occasions, and just watched him, of course, throughout my career in fashion, and of course him being a fashion icon, to me, and even an inspiration to me, throughout the years. Just seeing a black man of color, a gay black man of color at that, with such a presence, such a voice, and such a larger than life personality, to see him in the halls of Vogue, and being able to go in and out the places and spaces that he's had access and influence and voice in the industry. It's been amazing to look at him and see that now he is here. And so what I will say is, I think for a lot of us who are people of color, especially Black people, we're often in spaces where people expect us, who are on the outside looking in, expecting us to be these certain voices, to speak or to engage and navigate on behalf of the whole entire, community of color. And sometimes that's easier said than done. Again, when you're looking at corporate structures, there are just certain things that, it's contracted that you cannot do or say. There are certain things that there's certain moves that you cannot make or or you will lose your position. So, on one side, people say, well, does that mean you have to play the game? I don't know, because I haven't been in that position, thankfully and luckily. But, I often put myself in those people's shoes and say, well, how would I have dealt with this, or how would I have dealt with that? So that's what I'm saying, that when I read the book, I'm really going to be looking for a better picture of that, just with what I have seen him say about his position. And even one thing that was very interesting, he said about his position with Anna Wintour when he was first assigned or given a position to work with her. His job, his interpretation of his job was to follow her around and to go with her to all her fittings and just be by her side, at her beck and call. And I'm like, okay, but what purpose does that serve? For me, I would have had some questions about that, just for me, because again, being a person who is in alignment with my own purpose, I would have to say, okay, but how does that speak to me and what I've been placed here on the planet Earth to even do? And does that align? But I can do that because I have some information and awareness that may not have been present then. But I will say, all in all, the thing that really strikes me about this story with Andre is the fact that he has done all he's done, and he's been in the places and spaces he's been in, and he's had the success he's had. But one of the most shocking truths about his story that he revealed in his movie and in this book is that he's now, in his 70s and he's broke.
Wow.
For me, all I know where to start is I don't want to be that. I don't want that to be my story. At that age, for me, I don't want that testimony. So it makes me say, what do I have to do? And what conversation do I need to have with myself and others that ensures that at 70, that is not a testimony in my story? You know what I'm saying? Also, one of the things that people often ask is, well, where are the Black people? We have to look at ourselves who have position of influence and power, or that who are gatekeepers. We have a responsibility to make sure that when that question is asked, we can answer it. I'm very big about some of the questions that I often see get asked in this industry, and I'm like, but nobody ever answers the question. And sometimes I feel, honestly, the person who asked the question should be able to provide the answer, because for you to ask, well, where are all the Black people? Then you should be, well, here are all the Black people that I put in place. Here are all the people that I opened doors for. Here are all the people who I influenced. Here are all the people who I helped get where they are. And we should be able to see your legacy in the terms of people as well. And so when we cannot do that, it makes me ask some serious questions as far as, well, then why are we here having this conversation if we had opportunity to do something and we did not? And you could not, even if your truth is you could not. Well, we need to have a conversation on why, because there definitely disruption that needs to happen, because that cannot continue.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I can't say whether Mr. Talley did or didn't give people an opportunity with the platform that he had, but that it is definitely a problem. I have to agree with you on that. And it's really scary, and that we aren't really seeming like there's support for one another. And that's one of the main reasons why Parsons Black Alumni even came into existence. Because Niall and I, we had some conversations about our experiences with playing the game in corporate America, and I'm like, I'm not good at playing the game. Like, I'm not built like that. Like, I can only be me. I can only fake something, but for so long. So we wanted to put something in place where we can support each other's careers and grow it to a point where we are able to sustain each other.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is Parsons is a powerful institution, and I know at the time when I was there was only a handful of Black people there. We all knew each other. We helped each other. We still keep in contact with each other for the most part. And I just want to keep that going now on a professional level, aside from just being in school. But yeah, it is important for those people that go up to help each other. Some people had that mentality that, okay, I made it. I'm here now. I don't have to worry about nobody else. And that's quite frankly it's very selfish. I mean, even if you just help one or two, But I'm not saying you have to put the whole world on your back.
Well, interestingly, and this is something we have to really look at, because I personally know of some people that have asked some of those pioneers that have come before us, and so, some of those icons that we look to, and I was very disheartened to find out that they had conversations with them, and sharing with them, well, this is what I want to do, and my heart is, when I get in this position, I really do want to pay it forward and make sure that I reach back and pull other people along who didn't have the opportunity or the access that I had, but through me I can now be that door for them of access. And the response that they got was, well, you need to worry about yourself. And to hear that, it strikes me, but also in being considerate of looking at things from different perspectives, there's a different generation that was really their mentality and understanding for the time that they came along. You gotta do all you can to get in, because there really isn't, there's not so many opportunities for, people of color. They're not. So if you are the one, then you gotta be the one. And so, like I've been telling people, there's no shame. There's nothing wrong in being the one. We will celebrate you being the one. We will applaud you. We will honor you. We will give you your flowers while you can still smell them, because you made it through as the one. But you definitely have the responsibility when you become the one to make sure that you are not the only.
Yeah, and well said.
Yes, well said. And it's not as hard as people make it out to be either. People make it out to seem like it's oh, you're gonna just if you help this other black person, is somehow gonna make you look a certain way. So what if it does? You're standing up for what's right, and that's the only look that I'm concerned with. You know what I mean? Like, we can't be puppets in this day and age. We've accomplished far too much.
It's interesting you say that, because I had an instance. This was about 2 years ago, and it was with Fern in her office, and there was a young man who came. And he wanted to meet with Fern, and he had been emailing and requesting. I hope I don't get in trouble for sharing this, but it happened. I'm not going to say who, but he had been emailing and wanting to have this meeting and to talk with her. Very professional. Had a position, had a signature in his bio, worked with the company, and so I was like, well, sure. And so one of the things that I ask people, and just because I like to know we like to be prepared in our office because it is very busy, I asked, well, what's the purpose of the meeting? And he said, well, I have some things I would like to sit down and discuss with her, and get her thoughts on it, and also share with her what I'm doing in the industry. And I thought, oh, well, this is good, especially as a person of color, and what he was doing. I'm like, this will be good for you to come and share this. And I was interested in what as well. So he comes to the office, and when I say, just to put it simply, the meeting was a flop. I mean, this young and talked.
Oh no.
And talked in circles, and I don't know whether if he was nervous. I mean, I don't know, but I was sitting at the computer. I didn't join in the meeting, so the office is set up. There's couches, and so you kind of sit on the couch, and then our desks are over here. So I was at my desk, and so they're behind me, and I was sitting there looking like, oh my God, this boy has got to stop talking. Like, I mean, after 40 minutes, I was just like, he has got to stop talking. And so, he kept going.
Probably nervous.
And so Fern, in her gracious way, she said, okay, I really like hearing you, and I really understand that, you've got a lot of different angles to what it is that you're doing, but I've listened to you all this time, and I still can't really tell or decipher why you're here. Do you have something you want to know from me? Is there something you want to share with me? Is there something, that I'm supposed to help you with? Like, I just want to know what it is that you want to know. Like, why are you here? And so he said, yeah. He said, well, I just wanted to get to know you a little more. And I'm like, not right here.
That wasn't the right answer.
And he said, and so she said, really, you came here like to get to know me better? And he said, well, she said, you don't have any questions? And I said, I could feel it escalating. So then I said, okay, just calm down. So I kind of turned around and looked at him. He's like, well, I do have some questions. And so she said, okay, well, what's your question? And the first question he asked her was, well, how did you create Fashion Week? And I was like, bruh, like that is if you get a chance to come in someone's office, do not ask them questions that you can get the answers to.
Yeah, he could have Googled that.
There's a whole movie or documentary called The Tints that tells the whole story of how New York Fashion Week was created. And I personally know just from, working with her, she hates that question. And so I said, oh man, I'm cringing inside. And she said, no. She said, you did not get to my office to ask me, well, how did I create New York Fashion Week? I am not going to answer that question. You can Google that. Like, there's other things you can do. She said, so let me just help you. It's obvious you were unprepared. She said, it's obvious you were unprepared. So just, is there anything I can help you with? Let me start there. So, they finally got to, a happy medium, but it honestly was an hour and a half waste of time. So,
like you said, that was gracious too, because I know plenty of people who would have just been like, all right, well, it's time for you to go now.
Yeah. And I will say that's one of the blessings of being in my position, to be able to give people access. And I know me and her go back and forth sometimes about it, but I really do love the fact she really is interested in meeting people, and she'll hear people, but it's just got to make sense, Mm-hmm. And so, and then people, I'm like, you need to be considerate of who you're coming to talk to. And so but I did, after that was over, I met with that young man. I said, look, I want to talk to you. Here's my number. Let's schedule a day when we can sit down and talk. And I really did. I talked to him and I said, well, this is what I've learned in my expertise, and this is what I know, and I let him pick my brain, as they say. But we had a nice lunch, and I said, I just want to make sure that because you will continue to grow in your career, you'll continue to excel, and I want you to be prepared when you go into these rooms. Like, I understand you'll always be nervous sometimes. I mean, depending on the type of person you are and your personality, but I do want you to be prepared, because it's not that you weren't good enough, or you weren't smart enough. You just didn't have your A game together, and it's okay. But I'm going to prepare that this is what you do when you go and talk to these people. Yeah.
And that's a perfect example right there, even just what you did, and you don't have to fully always take somebody on as a mentor, but even something like that is very helpful. Mm-hmm. I wanted, is there anybody, I know we have a few viewers, if anybody wants to type a question in the chat for Elliot, if you have any good questions, give you a couple seconds to type. You said, what did you say, Elliot?
No questions. And thank you all for the comments. They're very humbling. Very humbling.
Yeah. Let's see, is anybody gonna write anything? I know it's like we're waiting, but they're like hearing what we said from a few seconds ago. So yeah, but anyway, other than that, while we're waiting for somebody to ask a question, I did have a gentleman contact us in our Instagram DM by the name of Woody Reed, and he said they're looking for it's a sports agency and music label called Culture Sports Agency and Assist Management Company, and Culture is spelled COLTURE, not the regular way CUL, but COL. So I told him that they're looking for, he specifically requested some Black interns for a graphic design internship. And he said that anyone that's interested in the internship, he said that you can send, it's for the sports agency, you can email Woody, which is WOODY, at culturesports.com, COLTURES sports.com. And then you can email for the music label, you can email Woody at assistmanagementco.com. So assist management and then co.com. But we'll also list that information in the description box here on YouTube as well. So yeah, I guess nobody had any questions because we didn't get anyone type in anything. So now, unless you have something else to say or anything you wanted to ask Elliot.
Yes, I just want to say thank you so much, Elliot, for your illuminating points during this live chat, our first ever for Parsons Black alumni. You really helped us make it spectacular. And, again, we apologize for the technical difficulties. We are so like new to this whole like live streaming on YouTube thing, but hopefully maybe we can go on Instagram after for live for a couple minutes just to like say hey to people. Me and Jatan, you don't have to come, Elliot. Wait, am I muted?
Oh,
no.
I'm available.
Because we can only do 2 people anyway. That's why we're not doing this on there. But yeah, we're so happy.
I would rather you do it with Elliot so that he can be on there, Niall. It's up to you.
Oh, yeah, if you want to, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's do we could do a little recap.
Yeah, and for the people that are watching, you can email us at parsonsblackalumni@gmail.com. If you have any suggestions or what you want to see, because this is just the beginning for us doing these lives. I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. So I hope you all enjoyed it too. And we want to have more guests. We have a couple of other things already lined up, but if there's anything you want to let us know or how to get added to our email list or anything like that, you can just email us, because a lot of people are not aware that Parsons Black Alumni even exists. So we're really doing our best to get the word out. Elliot said that he had actually spoke to somebody that he was actually kind of upset that he didn't know that he graduated from Parsons, didn't know that this existed. So we're doing the best we can. I know they have this new thing called New School Network, and we were supposed to be listed on there, but when we checked the link on newschoolnetwork.com, the link wasn't working. So hopefully they'll get that set up and you'll be able to register on there sooner rather than later, hopefully. But in the meantime, you can follow us at Parsons Black Alumni on Instagram, and just email us if you have any questions or anything like that, because we do send out email blasts from time to time. And we would love to just hear from you and hear your suggestions or comments or whatever you all might want to tell us. So thank you. Oh, and we also had an exhibit set up for Jay Jackson for March 27th, but that of course got canceled. Rachel Fenderson, another graduate of Parsons, she was going to be she did her master's thesis on Jay Jackson, and we were planning to have some of his pieces exhibited and do a question and answer session with her, because she knows all things Jay Jackson. So, but unfortunately, it was canceled due to the pandemic, or I won't say pandemic anymore. Thank you, Elliot, for correcting me. I will say this COVID-19 thing that we're praying goes away whenever or whatever subsides. What'd you say, Elliot?
I said it's okay corporately, but not personally.
Yeah. So yeah, we have been having things that we were trying to get in the works, just things, even just networking events and things like that we wanted to plan. So if anybody has any ideas, just reach out to us. Our ears are open. We want to hear what you all say. The whole purpose is to support the careers of Black people, but Black people from Parsons more specifically. But if you're Black and you're creative, or even if you're just Black, we want to support you, because we all understand how difficult it is for our people in this day and age. Of course, the people that came before us, they definitely had it a lot rougher than us, and but there's a whole new set of challenges that we face nowadays. So we want to support each other and help support each other's mental health as well. That's one of the reasons why we felt like it was important to have somebody like Elliot on here, because so many people are isolated, or especially in a situation like this where the news is telling you that specifically to isolate, but to be able to voice what it is that you're dealing with, any mental health challenges you may be having. You may not know where to get resources. Sometimes we may have information that we can provide for you. Even things as small as, I remember now he told me about the SBA .gov, and I went on to apply. They were offering, there's people that are actually getting some of those resources. I know a lot of people have had problems getting resources, but even if it's something like what psychiatrist can you go to financial resources, whatever it is that you need, just email us. And if we know anything, we'll tell you where to go. If we don't know, we'll tell you we don't know, but we'll try to get some info for you. So I hope I didn't ramble too much, but yeah, so that's what we're here for. So yeah, just reach out to us, and Niall and Elliot, you guys are gonna hop on IG or
Well, I'm going to go on live, and